I am. The English translation for silence. I wonder if Google knows that. Our dearest, closer and close. Subtler than the subtles. Vaster than the vast. What seems to be an absence for the mind. Emptiness, nothingness, the absence of objects, What may be empty for the conditioned mind is our dearest, our most precious fullness, wholeness of our self. Where the conditioned mind may get bored, our soul rejoices in the loving embrace with the self, pure consciousness, loving awareness. Like Ramdas used to say, to chant, I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. So many beautiful translations, words, expressions have been created, invented, and still none is so precious as the silence itself. The original or the origin of all the words, all the expressions, the stillness prior to the expression, to the movement of that very stillness. a placeless place where we take rest from our own dance, where Shiva takes Shakti back to itself, or gets to be Shiva, or gets to have expressed itself as Shakti, and just rests in its isness, its I amness. And good rest is so precious, maybe even so needed for many of us in these ongoing turbulent times. Where the expression, the dance, the movement of consciousness, it's rearranging the dream, writing a new script, composing a new piece of art, of music. Which shakes the old structures within and without. Everything is falling back into peace. But until it falls, so to speak, it might be disturbing, unusual, unknown, maybe scary, maybe sad. But be assured, dear friends, everything is falling back to peace, back to its origin, back into the silence. Guarantee. However, while the dream is rearranging itself, the dance seems to getting more wild and crazy sometimes, like late at a party where the DJ ran out a bit of the good songs and is getting a bit tired or drunk maybe, and some more crazy stuff comes out of the speakers, and the dance floor might not look so harmonious and organized as at the beginning of the party. Some people might be lying on the floor, some hanging on the couch. At the end stages of a party, which we are at in our conscious creation, our whole creation. At this stage, before something new bursts in the morning, it may look a bit wild, that dance, and it comes with a hangover sometimes. But we have freedom. We don't need to stay at the party till 5 a.m. We can go to the kitchen and have a good chat with a friend, have a satsang. Or we can check out completely and take a pause from the dance and come back to the stillness, to the still, essential, most essential aspect of ourselves, of consciousness, prior to the dance, prior to the movement, prior to its expressions. And recharge our batteries for the next party, for the next dance. It's surely gonna come. What a great gift if our mind, our body, our understanding allows us to perceive the richness, the fullness, the peace in this Nothing, nobody can bother us here, so to speak. Nothing can disturb us. The most sacred space where we can truly rest, truly recharge and get ready for the next adventures of our own movement, our own expressions. When we let go of the fascination of the mind with objects, with objective experience, thoughts, feelings, sense perception, subtle perceptions, and relax back into this silence, into the source of all these objects, all these phenomena, all this phenomenal experience. The silence comes to life, becomes a living silence. Presence. A numinous experience. The experience of the divine presence of ourselves, traditionally called the presence of God. It's a very different kind of experience, this numinous experience. Very different than the experiences we make with the body and the mind. The objective experiences. It's like looking in the mirror and seeing our original face before we were born. It is not experience this divine presence, this peace and joy and happiness that comes with it. It is not something that we need to create or something that we need to achieve to become. All we have to do, or better, not do, is to let go of this fascination of the mind with objective experience. And this non-doing, this letting go of doing, as it cannot be done by any means of willpower, it comes about naturally through understanding. When we truly, deeply understand that the objects of the world within and without are an expression of our very own selves. But the expression is like, are like tools for our enjoyment, and also, most importantly, mirrors. All little mirrors, every single little object is a little mirror to mirror us back. Its origin, its source. The function of the object, so to speak, is just to remind us that they're actually not an object, that it's just an appearance in the mirror. Maybe a beautiful appearance, maybe an exciting appearance, a joyful, loving expression of ourselves. But nevertheless, the essence, the reality of every single object is not an object, it's not an appearance, does not belong to space and time. The fascination in the mind for the objects comes from its misunderstanding that there is a fulfillment, a happiness in the appearance, in the object, where in reality, in our experience, not as a philosophy, the joy, the happiness, the peace, the celebration in every object is in its own dissolution, in its own recognition of its true face, of its true nature. In this silent recognition, in the true seeing of every phenomena, every object, every objective experience, in it being seen by that which is not an object, but that which is seen, witnessing, truly experiencing. And that seeing and that recognition is the celebration No matter what the object is, if it's a apparent happy object like a positive thought or a negative object, apparent negative object, sadness or a fear, sensation. In its recognition, in its seeing from that source, from that silence, the object shows its true face, its numinous presence. And in that sense, every single objective experience, every single object in our self-created dream is meaningful. It's like a huge game of hide and seek, and every object is trying to hide away its true nature. And when we recognize it and see it, then it's like, well, yeah. There's a little this today with a cow in Europe. It was a cow, like this cuckoo, cuckoo. When there's a wall or something, and you hide, and then you come out of hiding, and like cuckoo, and oh, yeah. Every kid loves this game. This is the expression of the game of consciousness. We know exactly, even as a kid, that the friend, the father, the mother is still there. It's just a game, you know exactly. And still it's like, oh, 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 cuckoo, ah. It's the same with every single object, no matter how dark, heavy, ugly, intense it may appear to us, in us. Its reality is pure consciousness, pure love, pure joy. For when we can clearly see that all of the objects of the world are not in themselves able to fulfill the promise of happiness, peace, joy, that it's not the object, the phenomenon that is giving the joy, peace, happiness, But seeing through the object, seeing it for what it is, experiencing it for what it is, brings the joy, happiness, and peace. And vice versa, if we see through that objects of misery do not carry misery and suffering in themselves, but it is the misunderstanding, the confusion of the illusory separate self, out of ignorance, believing that it has to avoid these objects, that it has to reject these objects because they are other, they are not me, I should not have them, they are bad for me, they are wrong. This story of this illusory separate self gives those objects the power to make us suffer. If we can see clearly that the happiness is not in the objects and the suffering is also not in the objects, that the happiness is in the solution of the object, the fulfillment of the object, and that the suffering clearly only belongs to this illusory separate self that is in resistance with life, resistance with our very own selves, with our very own creation. If we can see that clearly, then this lifelong habit, this lifelong fascination with the objects in the form of trying to grab them and hold on to them for our happiness, and to push them away, to reject them, to avoid suffering. It just leaves us naturally, effortlessly. It's like a ripe fruit that is ready to fall. It will fall. No effort, no doing, no making it happen, no achieving, becoming. The fruit, the tree gets the light of the sun. It is enlightened with the wisdom and the intelligence in the light, how to grow, how to become a fruit. And once it's ready, plop, there it is, and then we can pick it up and enjoy in this understanding. It's the same here. Any manipulation, any trying to manipulate our objective experience in any way, including the biggest object, of course, our apparent me, the separate me idea and consequent feelings. just prolongs. It's like instead of letting the sun of understanding shine on the fruit, on us, we kind of create shadows. We get in the way as a separate me. We try to control the objects according to our conditioning, to our belief system. We get fascinated with the objects. I am like this, I am like that, I should be like that, I should do that more, less, better, da, 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 da. I'm still not good enough. So I have to do better, I have to shine stronger. And I have to make sure that no one comes. I will build a fence around the tree and a roof on top, and I will hire 20 guards and I will put some mines around the tree, and I don't know, I will do everything in my ego power. But if I don't do anything and just let this light of understanding, this light of our sun, shine upon all of those beliefs, all of those feelings, all of those perceptions, all of this objective experience. We just allow consciousness to do the work, as I used to say. Because we have understood, truly understood, that any attachment, any grabbing, and any rejecting and pushing away of our objective experience just prolongs, persists this idea of a separate me, of a separate doer, of a separate thinker, of a separate feeler. In this living understanding, the phenomenon, the vasanas, how they are traditionally called, the binding power over us to make them, to give them the power to make us believe that they are us. They lose this power in this clear seeing, in this clear understanding. They stop binding us to this illusory separate me, in seeing them, welcoming them. So when we can really clearly see that it is not the object itself that brings about the happiness, the peace, the love, the joy, but the essence of every object. The numinous essence of every object. Its divine presence of our own selves, that is actually what we really want. Our direction in life, so to speak. We converse back to this divine presence in us and in every other object. We hopefully enjoy them. We see the beauty in them, we express ourselves, we express and experience and enjoy all that they have to offer. But we don't confuse them anymore for the source of happiness or the source of misery. We know that they're all just a mirror back to our true nature, to ourselves. And as they have still a transitioning fascination, and some of them will have the convincing binding power to let me believe that is actually true, that this thought, this feeling, this person, this situation is making me suffer. That the dance, the party got a bit out of hand, and I just want to get out of here. I can't see this nonsense anymore. It's natural along the way, so to speak, while this living understanding is really finding its way, landing in all of us. Sometimes there's times of pause, of rest in its essence, free of the phenomenal experience, free of the objects, is very valuable, because there we can really make that understanding, this jnana, our own experience. Like, yeah, in this numinous, in this presence, in this looking in my original face, in the mirror of myself, not of my appearance as a person, I really experience, so to speak, the fullness, the happiness of this numinosity. I know for myself, without the need of an agent, without the need of a thought, of a feeling, of a perception, of a confirmation, of a seeing by the other, of a compliment, none of that I need. I'm just good in this light, in this mirroring light of myself. And in the transitioning phase, and that might take a while, after being so fascinated and engaged with all those objects all my life, I might choose for a while to actually withdraw a little here and then, take pauses, longer pauses from the dance, and just rest happily in this reflection of myself, in this living silence that we enjoy in our meetings. So as through understanding and this growing experience of the fulfillment and this silence, in this reflection of our true nature, as this becomes our own experience, our living experience, we don't need to try hard to work our way to manipulate the objects in the ego's favor. We just lose interest in them as objects. We see them for what they are, so we enjoy them when they are here, but we also enjoy when they're not here. We don't need them to be here to make us happy. We are happy. It's our nature. Like it's the nature of every object. Where the ego, the separate me, this illusory self, its life depends on those objects. It needs to keep creating something. another thought, another problem, another conflict, another drama, another war, another catastrophe. Give me anything just to have something to be busy with. I didn't do good enough. I did this wrong. I should have done better. I la 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 da da da. As long I can keep spinning around this egocentric model of myself, as long I get this illusion of continuity of, oh, another thought, another feeling, another sensation. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. I keep going, I keep thinking on behalf of the separate me just to keep myself busy with myself, with an objective, illusory self, but better than nothing, because nothing is too scary for this separate me. But it's not scary, thank God, for all of us anymore. We're clearly enjoying the nothingness, the nothingness. We see clearly that we do not depend in any way on this phenomenal objective experience, not only to be happy, but even more crucial, to be something, to be alive, to mimic the life that we are. This living silence is life itself. Doesn't need a copy, a mental, fictitious reality. The joy to really see, recognize that, and live that recognition. So we might get, rightly so, for very understandable reasons, fascinated by this presence, by this luminosity of ourselves, by this divine reflection of our own light of consciousness. And we might lose a bit of interest in some objects, or all objects even. This is very This really depends on the individual expression of the avatar, how that recognition actually then expresses itself. Some might want to withdraw longer or become very hermity for a while. Some jump out with that expression straight and celebrate that recognition. Either way, in my experience, eventually we turn back to the objects of the world, to our loved ones, to our work, to maybe in a different way, very likely in a different way, but we'll come back to the objects because just as we've seen today, they are not other than us, they're not separate from us. They are our own expression. But there is this divine intelligence in the presence. It's so good. It's so peaceful. It's such a good resting place. So we enjoy it. We have started here quite a while ago. I think we did. Not that I really remember, but some perfume of the past is floating through the space. Am I aware? Who or what is aware of my experience? The self-inquiry, the simple question of, am I aware? And the living answer, this non-objective, numinous experience. The living answer is this reflection of the pure light of consciousness. And as we discovered long ago, it comes with this bubbling joy. Well, let's go a little bit further today, possibly, and bring about a bit more clarity even about this. Living answer to the question, am I aware? Or who am I? To simplify the teachings. What kind of equated this bubbling, this reflecting recognition with ourselves. But as I have introduced here and there already, we have to see a bit more clearly about our true nature, about ourselves. This Arunachala season that is ending today, for now, I feel has introduced that deeper understanding a bit. This presence, this reflection of our own light is this analogy that I like to use. It's like looking in the mirror of our original face. So we get through this question, am I aware or who am I? We get this reflected answer. The light of consciousness reflects to itself through our subtlety, through our sattvic body and mind. We experience this presence. It's not a phenomenal experience, it's not an objective experience, but nevertheless, if we look really closely, it's still kind of something. It's a presence. It's a fullness. But there is still, so to speak, something that is aware of this presence. Something is looking in the mirror and sees the reflection. There is the reflection, the presence, and there is the seeing of it. There is still a very subtle duality. It's sometimes confused that this is it. This is pure consciousness, this presence, this reflection. But it's still seen. It's still perceived, even it doesn't have, so to speak, objective qualities, but it has still this presence. And why is this important? To see clearly that this is still, even this numinous experience, this presence, is still something, so to speak. Words get very complicated here because we don't have language to discriminate here. At least not in our Western languages. Why is this so important? To see that this is still, it's as good as the original, don't get me wrong. When the mirror is clear, it's as good as the original. It's the same light, it's just reflected. And the very reflection, as I mentioned many times, the abiding in the self, in the light of the self that Ramana spoke about, what the Christian mystics call contemplation, infused in this light. Savikalpa samadhi. Fascination, absorption in the presence instead of in the objects, while the objects, like my voice, still passing by, feelings, sensations, thoughts. But the presence took the front seat, so to speak, so it enlightens all the objects that are fleeting by, and in that way, of course, that's the power of satsang and in general of this numinous experience of this divine presence, of this light of consciousness. It dissolves not only the binding power in the objects, in the vasanas, it will, in its due time, so to speak, also it will dissolve this last subtle duality that there is a seeing of the presence, a resting in being. It will dissolve in resting as being. Even the subtle witnessing quality of this presence will dissolve in this love with time. That's why abiding in the self and satsang and just this loving presence is to some degree at least hard to say if fully, because I don't know, because in my case it was mixed with understanding, like in all of our cases. So the understanding is a very important kind of ingredient, like a little spice to this presence, because then and this is why it's important, through the understanding, we don't get hooked on this presence because we cannot make it permanent, because the one that is seeing the presence, that is aware of the presence, is that which is continuous, is that which is lasting. Even the mirror of consciousness is not needed because our self, our true nature, loving awareness, consciousness, is self-luminous. It shines in its own light. It does not need a mirror, a reflection of its own light. It is everlasting, out of space and time, infinitely, eternally, shining in itself, by itself, in this ineffable, non-experience. We could distinguish it just to have clarity in the terminology in our satsang. We could call it the luminous non-experience of ourself. Light in its own light, self-radiance, self-knowledge, jnana. Without an agent, without a mirror. The presence, as we all have experienced, comes and goes in different degrees and different volumes, as I call it. But this mutedness, this self-luminous, happy mutedness of ourselves is even a step, so to speak, prior to the reflection. It's that which is shining on the mirror. And when we speak here, when I speak about this happiness, pure happiness, it's this self-luminosity, this self-radiance. It's not a phenomenal experience. It's not a happiness depending on an object, not even the subtlest presence. It's just happy by itself, in itself. So this self-knowledge, the jnana, is this self-happiness, the happiness of being ourselves, the joy of simply being ourselves. The simply happy, ordinary, non-state of being ourselves. Continuous, lasting. Sahaj, samadhi. No big deal, but happy. Happy without a reason, without any phenomenal objective reason, even happy without the nominal, the numinous, divine reflected presence. Purely happy in itself, which allows to this very peculiar, very paradoxical human experience that I call happy shit. The happiness, happily happying for itself, in itself, while we might have a really tough and rough human experience. At the same time, so to speak, more correctly, the happiness out of time, eternally embracing the experience in space and time. This is freedom. Absolute freedom, moksha. Absolute freedom within and without all kinds of experiences. Objects, phenomena, yes, no, apparently. Good, bad, positive, negative. Okay, I am happy. Divine presence, beautiful satsang, divine music. Numinous, numinal. And it's gone. Oh, but I'm still happy. The jnana, the self-knowledge is still here. Absolute freedom to enjoy the human experience, but also to be free of it. Because eventually we'll be all free of this particular human experience. I don't want to scare anyone, of course, but it's coming earlier or later. And this living understanding is the only way to overcome the fear in the separate me, in the ego of that apparent moment in time. When we are free now of the need of our human experience and can just enjoy it freely, then there is no room left for fear and all the consequent negative feelings, so-called negative feelings that actually are based on that one fear. We become fearless. We are fearless. What comes, comes. What goes, goes. We enjoy it. We celebrate it as long as it lasts. We cry over it, maybe, as long as it lasts. Earlier or later, and why not now? We all return to that which is truly lasting, always eternally, infinitely shining in itself.